All right, Fresh. Let's go to our second game. Apparently, this is supposed to be a rivalry game, but I got some questions on that part. South Carolina Gamecocks are traveling to Athens, Georgia to take on the back-to-back defending national champion Georgia Bulldogs. This game right now, at time of record, Georgia is a 27.5 point favorite in this game. Over-under is set at 54. I'll let you go, Fresh. You're the Georgia fan. I'll turn this one over to you because, yeesh.
Well, I mean, I think the Dogs have played okay offensively in the first 2 weeks of the year against Cupcakes. They haven't showed a lot. They played very vanilla, but there's still some things I think they need to work on. I think a lot of this 27.5 points is because South Carolina looked terrible versus UNC and because what happened the past few years where Dogs have just absolutely just dominated South Carolina. It's more of a myriad of things all just being put together. Um, the first thing I'm looking at from this offense for the Dogs is you're at home, between the hedges, but you've got to be much more efficient from the very start. We've had a couple of lackadaisical starts. The offensive line has not played up to their potential. They've even admitted it in press conferences this week where they know they've left a lot out there. How do they show up against an SEC defensive line? This is not going to be a UT Martin or a Ball State defensive line. This is going to be at least they're going to have athletes out there going to play. They're going to be a lot faster. They're going to be bigger. How is this offensive line ready to show up and make a play and take care of the game and dictate the pace? The running back situation for Georgia, Kendall Milton hasn't had the burst. He's still coming off an injury, trying to get recovered there. Hasn't showed the burst, but who's going to be that the number one rule back there? Roger Robinson, the freshman from California, looked pretty solid. Dylan Bell, the wide receiver, has gotten a couple snaps last week at running back. He showed some explosiveness. Andrew Paul come back from injury. How do these guys sort of get into a flow, and who's going to take lead on that running back situation to really settle that position right now for the Dogs? That's another important thing I want to watch in this football game is where is that coming from? Right now, there's a lot of unknowns. We know there's a lot of talent on this roster, but who's going to take up those top spots and actually show up in bigger games? Because the South Carolina game, I think we all agree, is probably a little less than what games might be later down in the season, but you still got to play this game and you got to win this game to move on to the next one. Because if you lose, the thing could spiral out of control with what expectations are in comparison. So, got to remain focused. Got to take care of business there. Defensively, they've played lights out. I don't. Outside of Javon Buller, if he's going to play or not, this defense has been fantastic. There was tons of depth there. They need to keep playing at a high level and not let Spencer Rattler and that Gamecock offense get settled in on Saturday afternoon. One bright spot though for the offense, outside of the receivers sort of getting mixed in Lovett and Robert Thomas and Jack, Rosemary Jack Saint. Loud McConkey hasn't played yet, but right now Makai Muse, who has been a little walk-on slot guy here and there, has a punt return for touchdown, has a touchdown reception. He's showing a little spark and a little energy, and expect to see much more of him in the rotation from kick returning perspective, punt return perspective, gadget plays, bubble screens, whatever they can do. He'll be involved, and he might be that one guy to keep, kind of like a Lad McConkey was the past few years. The guy in the slot, the guy to get the ball to in space, who just makes plays, not the big herald recruit who shows up. But Carson Beck's going to be the trigger man, and he's still got to figure out how to get it done. This is another big tune-up before they start really getting into the meat of the grind of the schedule. So got to maintain the focus. Can't get too big on yourselves. But beware, you are playing an SEC defense, SEC recruited players. You've got to be mindful of that. Don't just think that South Carolina is terrible and they're going to blow you up, because last year they went down to Gainesville and the Gamecocks got slaughtered. And then next week, nobody thought that they had a chance versus Tennessee. Granted, it was at home, and they beat the trash out of the Vols. And then they went to Clemson the week after that, and they beat the trash out of Clemson. So this team has that Undertaker moment. You love your wrestling, Seth. They rose from the dead before where nobody expected them to have a chance, and they beat two top 5 teams in back-to-back weeks. Coach Beamer can get them to get fired up and get them to play. So you always have to be aware of that. Spencer Rattler can show up and make plays when he has to if the offensive line gives him time. They have playmakers there. It's whether they can put it all together and be able to compete at a high level. And that's what you have to be aware of. You cannot let South Carolina get any momentum because they've done it in the past. They've shown it. Spencer Rattler has great games, has great plays, has bad games, has bad plays. Which Spencer Rattler will we get on Saturday afternoon? It's a hostile environment. It's a road game. He didn't play. He played at Clemson, showed up last year, made a good couple plays. The Tennessee game was at home. The Georgia game was at home. One game he looked great, one game he looked terrible. This is a road venue. How does he show up and enjoy the spotlight? That's what I'm really going to watch. The offensive line already has some issues. Do they play better than they played versus North Carolina? Because North Carolina made them look like a sieve. And if that's what North Carolina did, I'm sure they've been watching that film for a while, but Georgia can make them look a lot worse if they aren't up on their game and ready to go. 27.5 points is a lot of points. That's a heck of a lot of points to be covering. Is Kirby watching other events, other teams around the country, making things happen? Does he want to make a statement like he did last year when he put it on and kept scoring about South Carolina? I'm not sure they cover the 27.5. I think they maybe win by 20 at most, but 27.5 is a lot of points. I don't think the Dogs cover the 27.5. But the over-under, I believe, it will hit the over because the over-under is 54.5. They will hit the over. They will score some points. But the 20, they might win by 21, but 27.5 is a lot. But Dogs win. They don't cover. But we'll hit the over in the football game.
Yeah, Fresh, you made the professional wrestling analogy there about The Undertaker. Fresh, there's The Undertaker, and then there's all the underfakers out there. The people who tried to rip off the Undertaker gimmick. Talking about South Carolina, they're not the Undertaker. This is not a squad that can rise from the dead. You're going to need the reincarnation of Paul Bearer, the urn, every little piece out there. You're going to have Georgia, all Georgia players get rolled out into a sealed casket first to get out of the casket, then play the football game, in my eyes, for South Carolina to have a chance in this game. South Carolina, you lost your best running back in the transfer portal out to Southern California, and it shows. Spencer Rattler, yeah, you're playing all right. He's got almost 700 yards passing right now, but their leading rusher is averaging 2.6 yards a carry in a team against North Carolina, good team with North Carolina, but you're averaging 2.6 yards a carry after playing Furman. You played Furman. Okay? That's unacceptable. Listen, I love Shane Beamer. I love Shane Beamer. I hate Shane Beamer at South Carolina. If it takes Georgia just absolutely destroying South Carolina to get Shane Beamer fired so he can go back to Virginia Tech for me, I'm all for it. I don't even care. Put a hell in the cell around Athens, Georgia. Put it around the hedges so no one gets in, no one gets out. Someone will come in, rip the door off. Flames will go up. We'll get a bloody mess. Someone will go off the top of the cell. Spencer Rattler Georgia might throw him off the top of the cell. They gave up 8 sacks to North Carolina. Now, North Carolina's defense has definitely improved this year, but if Georgia is going to pin their ears back and force South Carolina to block maybe 5, 6, 7 guys in a rush there, Spencer Rattler is going to be taking some hits all day, every day, and multiple times on Saturday afternoon. The only thing I have a question with is I need to see a better first quarter out of Georgia. Georgia's put teams away very nicely. Again, yeah, we can talk about the level of competition. UT Martin of Chattanooga or whoever the hell it was. And then Ball State. Yeah, okay, those don't really scream like, I like Ball State because it's action, but the other one, yeah. I need to see Georgia really put the boots to someone in the first quarter. I think they're going to. I think Kirby understands that you can't have slow starts. And sooner or later, this happens with a lot of teams. Even as you're playing lesser competition, if you continuously have slow starts, sooner or later, it's going to come back and bite you. Sooner or later, you're going to pay for that slow start. You're going to be playing behind the 8 ball all day afternoon. And then you can't catch up and you're losing a game you're not supposed to lose there. I think Georgia knows that, and I'm fully expecting Georgia to use every ounce of every weapon they have, every steel chair in there, every table, I don't know, whatever offensive weapons they have, and just run the score up in the first and second quarter against South Carolina. They need to do that. They need to show and make the argument that they're really going to look like the same two teams because Georgia's got one little curse that's kind of happening to them. and it's the same thing that happens with teams that when they win a national title. They're always going to be compared to the championship teams. It's what it happens to Alabama every single year. It's what's happened to Ohio State. It's what happened to Clemson. It's what happened to LSU. Every single team is going to always be compared previously to those championship teams. I'm telling you, there's going to be critics out there going, well, if Stetson Bennett was here, or if we still had this offense and we didn't have to make the switch at offense coordinator, those questions start to creep into the conversation. Not that it's really going to impact the team a whole lot, but all of a sudden it just creates a weird, different type of culture that is not what the direction Kirby Smart's moving in. 27.5 doesn't scare me in this one. Fresh, I think Georgia's going to roll big time against South Carolina. I think they're going to get moving very, very quickly. I think Undertaker's going to come in, clean house there. But again, I think you're also playing the jobbers from the Ohio Valley Wrestling Organization, and not, he's not going up against his brother Kane in this match here. So,
Do you know the last team to beat Georgia at home?
I have no clue.
South Carolina in 2019. You know who the head coach was?
Right. Who's that?
Will Muschamp, who's on staff at Georgia.
Right.
Like
And
that right there just tells me that Kirby remembers it. He even talked about it at his press conference. But I think that's a selling point and a motivational point for your own team. Of this team will not be the team that beat us last time and beat us again. Like, this is going to be a mission focus.
yeah, and I don't know how many professional wrestling references I just dropped in a single game preview.